Good morning, and apologies if there's a bit of a whirring in the background. I've got my fan on just because it is so warm in here. Hopefully that will keep us a little bit cooler while we're busy crafting this morning. So welcome in if you're coming in with us live. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK. And it is my habit, particularly at the moment, to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and do a bit of crafting with you. And I have to say, this morning was one of those mornings when I wasn't entirely sure what we were going to do today. I was busy yesterday doing some preparations, getting ready to send catalogues out and putting up online some details of some online classes and things. So my head hadn't really got round what we were going to be doing today. Morning Div, morning Beryl, morning Caroline. So this has been sort of dragged kicking and screaming out of my brain this morning. So we'll see where it takes us. It's always good to have a bit of an adventure, isn't it? So I have a cup of tea on hand. I seem to be surrounded by complete chaos. But hopefully, let's breathe. And let's do a little bit of crafting. Now, I've been doing a little bit of taking some old and mixing it in with some new. And that's what we're going to do today. And I'm just flicking through my embossing folders because the new that I suppose brought this morning's thoughts together was this old world paper embossing folder. Morning Lisa, morning Chrissy. I'm wanting to have a bit of a play with that and a little bit of a think around that. Now, embossing folders are one of those things. They're not huge, they're not big, they're not the most expensive thing in the catalogue, but they can often be the thing that brings a project together. It can often be that just little added bit of something that you need. You can look at something and think, it just needs something else. And quite often the embossing folder is just that something else that it needs. And I was really quite excited when I saw this one. And I think it's one that I might return to again and again. It feels very weird to start with. And if any of you have had a pre-order, you know what I mean. It is really deeply embossed. And it almost feels like they've just taken a whole load of melted plastic and it's sort of dried in a crinkly way. I'm sure that it is far more thought about than that, but it is quite a thick embossing folder with really deep indentations in it. It is a 3D embossing folder, but the results are beautiful, and one of those things, as I say, I think you might come back to again and again, because what it does is it really sort of almost ages the paper in an instant. No more of that scrunching it all up and then trying to flatten it out. This embossing folder will do that for you. So morning Glenda, morning Valerie. So this is sort of like the backbone to my thoughts for this morning. That's the thing we're going to come back to, is the old world embossing folder, old world paper embossing folder. But I've got a couple of stamp sets. I've got a few stamp sets here that are out of our current collection, things that are carrying over. I've got the Forever Blossoms, I've got the Beautiful Moments, and I've got the Path of Petals. So let's start with the Forever Blossoms, I think, and I'm also going to use Path of Petals with that one, because one of the other things I was thinking this morning is we haven't done any colouring in for a little while. So I have got some shimmery white cardstock. I think we won't need that for this one. I've got some So Saffron cardstock and some Very Vanilla. And I've got some soft suede, Very Vanilla and Cajun Craze. I think the Cajun Craze we won't need at the minute. So let's have a bit of a play. I think I might actually do a very vanilla card base. So let me get some thick Very Vanilla. So of course Very Vanilla is one of the colours that we do in both standard and in thick, as is Whisper White. And the very reason that we do that is because it is then fabulous for creating card bases. And it's good if you're doing things like boxes and you need a slightly firmer cardstock. Our standard cardstock does a really good job of doing card bases and things, but the thick one is just a little bit more substantial. So let's have that, and then I think I'm going to take a piece of the So Saffron. Cut that down to 14.4 by 10, so that will be quite a nice little mat on the top there. And then I'm going to take a piece of Very Vanilla, and I'm actually going to cut that to the same size. All will become clear at a later date. So that's the same size mat as the So Saffron, and then I shall need some Very Vanilla as well. Right, so card base, 2 10 by 14.4 mats for the top, and another bit for some stamping. Okay, so let's start with this So Saffron piece just here. Now what I thought I'd do is I'm going to take this Path of Petals, and in there's this sentiment that says, hoping you can find strength for today and peace for tomorrow. I think that's beautiful. Really good sentiment to send on a sympathy card, or just for somebody that's having a really tough time. When we think about the moment, it could be somebody with a loved one in hospital, all sorts of reasons why you might want to be sending that sentiment, but I think it's a beautiful sentiment. Let's just try and get it straight on our block. Line it up on my grid there. That should be a bit better. Okay. So now I'm going to take my So Saffron ink. So I'm going to do this tone on tone. I'm just going to stamp that across the back here a few times. To make a sort of background. And we should no doubt come back to that sentiment for the top as well. Now this piece of Very Vanilla that I cut to the same size, this is the piece that we're going to run through the embossing folder. So there we are, nice smooth piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. I'm going to add it in to that embossing folder. Make sure I've got my right sandwich. So at the moment that's my base plate and my blue embossing plate. Just going to run that through there. And then let's open this up. And can you see that has now turned into a very wrinkly, and you can either have it so you've got your indentations on the top, or so that you've got your wrinkles on the top. But it's a very wrinkly, creased piece of old paper, which is what the embossing folder says that it will give you, is old paper. Now the reason that I've cut this to the same size as this is I'm now going to tear it. I know this gives some people palpitations. Always tear it towards you, and then you get sort of fluffy edge on the top. If you tear it away from you, you'll get the fluffy, you won't get that same fluffy edge, but it may be that you don't want the fluffy edge. So if you don't want the fluffy edge, tear it away from you. If you do, tear it towards you. So this is just very random. I'm not doing this with any, not used a ruler or anything. I want it to be sort of very random in its edges. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of sponge. There's my soft suede sponge and some soft suede ink. And you're always better off sponging on like some sort of plastic or glass. I'm just taking it off the edge, tickly motions. Let's bring that in and sponge it all round the edge. And I am just going to tickle, getting some dried ink coming out my sponge. I'm going to tickle over the top. So I'm not pressing very hard, but just where those raised pieces are. And look at that. A very vintagey, aged piece of paper. So what you can do with it then, if you want to, she says, oh, here it is. You could take our bone folder and I could curl that edge. Sort of work it round. And then I will take my sponge and sponge over that as well. So there we have a lovely bit of aged paper to go on top of our greeting panel at the back. Let me bring in, oh, I sat it on my chair, good job I didn't sit down, I'd have been sitting on my damp cleaning pad. Right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some, oh, actually that's in my box just here that I've just brought in from the other room. We're going to take some Memento and we'll take our very vanilla cardstock and I'm going to stamp this blossom. There we go. And let's grab our cherry blossom dies. As we have a blossom here. And then we have this die that's going to cut out smaller blossoms. So I'm going to do is let's just take a strip of this, cut it in half, and cut a couple of those out at the same time. Might go for a third one, but at least we can do 2 in one row, in one run. So I'm going to cut out my cherry blossom and a couple of these smaller blossoms. Let me put the old world paper die there for a second, embossing folder there for a second, while I rebuild my big shot. Right, the sun's going to be really quite warm here today. It's bizarre, isn't it? I know that in Australia I was seeing somebody's post. Was it Angie yesterday? Somebody was posting about the weather to come. I think we may have some storms possibly on their way. But up until they break, I think it's going to be really quite warm. There we are. We've cut 2 little blossoms with one run through. And one of those. I'm going to do one more little blossom. And just poke those little bits of card out of there that are locked in. And put the dies to one side. And the other thing I may look at is we have not yet got my head around all the new names of dies, so excuse me while I'm just flicking. I wonder if one of these tasteful label dies will fit. So these are a new set of dies with the tasteful labels. There's the background on there, just there. That one would work. It's not big enough. I think that's going to be a good one. That one just there. So we'll use that die in a moment to cut out the Self-Out Sentiment panel. But we do want to stamp our small little blossoms. Now, can we line those up? Which way round are they going to go? That way, I think. So I could get the Stamparatus out and do these to a probably slightly better result. It's finding which way is the right way. There we go. That was a pretty good shot. Okay, so I have grabbed some stamping blends. Let's sit down on the job. Let's grab my tea. Let's look as if we mean business. So I've got the dark and the light so saffron there. I've got some old olive. I've got some Calypso coral. Now let's do the leaves first. So we'll come in with some dark old olive. That fan is chugging away in the background. It's not ever such a strong fan, but it is just enough to give me a bit of a waft. Because I get the sun around this side of the house first thing in the morning, and then it moves on round. So by the afternoon, this is about the most comfortable place to be sitting first thing in the morning. Not so good. There we go. Blend out that colour on those leaves. And then we'll have a little bit of, let's go with the pale Calypso coral, I think, in the middle here. Just as these flower centres. We'll flick that out. Just do 3 and then I'll go back. And we'll come in with the dark saffron. So I'm keeping this fairly pastel, so again, if you did want to use it as a sympathy card, that is something we can. I know that's something that people sometimes find quite hard to know what to do on a sympathy card, but just by sort of using these nice flowers and sort of fairly pastely mutually tones. Doesn't always have to be black. And perhaps actually best not to be completely black. Just a little touch of spring-like hope, which we can all do with sometimes. And just blending out those petals, blending that Calypso coral in as well. Oh, I've got stuck, or petal, I've got a blossom stuck to the arm. Let's just bring in a little bit of Calypso coral on the bottom of these blossoms. And a bit of the dark around the sort of top. These little buds, the darling buds of May. There we go. Sure what that is. Those scissors that have just gone on the floor. I'm looking for those in a minute. Somebody remind me, that's where they are. They're on the floor. Just a bit of pink in the bottom there. And we'll come around with some of the dark saffron. We've got quite a lot of nice sort of crosshatch type shading drawn in on this stamp, so that's a good indicator of where you want your dark colours. I'm expecting a little delivery from Mr. Brown today, from the UPS man, just one of the dies that's been on back order is due in today. I did promise him after yesterday's heavy box of catalogues that today would be a lighter option. Let's just out these little bits of leaves on the bottom of here. So that's that. So little blossom bough. Let's just do some colouring on here, on these mini blossoms. And put some coral. Some dark saffron. And so if you are waiting on catalogues from me, if you're eagerly waiting for the postman to deliver one of those, I did sit last night watching the sort of new version of Lady and the Tramp, which was really sweet. It was lovely. That was my sort of a film. Never mind all this blood and gore. Give me Lady and the Tramp any day. Creating my bits to go in my catalogues, so they're all ready to go. So I'm just going to sit and put those together and put all the bits together in the envelopes, stick the labels on. So that's today's job. Hopefully get those in the post by the end of the day, and then it will just depend how quick the postman gets to you. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Lisa. But I have to say, I put some things in the post on Saturday, second class, and some of those were arriving yesterday, so I was very impressed with that. Right, okay, what have we got here? So we have our stamped background, we have our lovely curled up piece of oldie worldy paper, we have some blossom and some spare blossoms that we can add in where we'd like them. And they even have one peeking out underneath that paper. We will see. I'm thinking we'll perhaps have just rifling through my ribbon box. There it is. It's because another colour ribbon is laying over the top of it. I was thinking we'll perhaps have some lace. And then if I grab myself a little piece of So Saffron out of my odds and ends basket, and bring in this label. I think perhaps we'll do it in black, just so that it's visible. Stamp that in the middle there. I should have put my mat underneath it. Oh no, we're okay. And then I'll die cut this. So it's lovely having a whole lot of, got quite a few little labels now of different sizes and shapes and stitched, embossed. thought to do is get together sort of all of them on a sheet so that I can go, right, which one would work best with this. But that's really nice. So it's a nice shaped label with all that stitched detail around the outside. And I think somehow we'll have, might actually turn that round so that my curled piece of paper's in the top corner. Have our banner coming across the bottom. There are flowers. Coming out. We can just have a few more of these blossoms scattered around. And a bit of lace. Right, let's bring this together. Not got, looks as if my lace is starting to run out. Just have some lace coming behind our banner just there. Right, so let's stick that in place first. Turn this over. And I'll just put a couple of bits of double-sided tape down there. One. Two. And I'll just double that back. And scissors are on the floor. Nobody reminded me. Yes, I loved it, Lisa. I mean, I liked the original, but it was nice. They were very cute dogs. Don't very often get a choice of what I want to watch on the TV. Having two boys in the house, my husband and my son, they'd much rather be watching something sort of a bit more adventure-y and blood and gore, whereas, you know, rom-coms and Disney films are far more up my street. Or something a little off the wall. I quite like something a bit off the wall occasionally as well. And Michael said to me, "What are we watching?" Let's just slip our flowers off of there while we... So I really love the effect of this old paper embossing folder. I do quite like a bit of vintagey, distressed look things. And that is certainly going to give me that effect. Let's snip some of these. Just pop this up. I'm going to put one at the bottom, not at the top, because I'm going to slip my blossom underneath. So, tempted to put that onto some dimensionals as well. All the colours come through the card, that's all good. Means it's well soaked in. It backs off there. Morning, Jeanette. So obviously you could, there's no reason why you couldn't have this as a birthday card, Mother's Day card, anniversary card, but it does just give you something that you could use. And I put that dimensional at the bottom. I didn't, I put it at the top. That was silly. In you go, that's it. Snuggle you all in. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, as soon as I've played with it, it was like, oh, it's going to be, you're going to be, please don't use the old paper again, Helen. I'm fed up of it now. I think we'll sit some of these just sitting back on the card front. Just to give it a bit of a 3D feel to it. Some are sitting back and some are sitting forward. Little one peeping out the top there. So there, hoping you can find strength for today and peace for tomorrow. I just think that's a really lovely sentiment. So the gorgeous folder, just that stamping on the background with this saying greeting, and then those spring flowers die cut. So there's one use for our folder. So the other set that I grabbed out was this one. I love this one, the Beautiful Moments. So let me just clean up these stamps and pop them away. And what I was thinking, half sort of in my head, where I was going with this, was the idea of an old picture in a scrapbook or something. So, you know, somebody later in life looking back on a photograph of them and their mum in years gone by. So I thought we'd have this one here, or you could equally do sisters together or whatever. But I thought we would do this one. And let's get this block, I think. And I'm going to cut a little bit of shimmery white cardstock. And we will cut that. Let's go 13.9 by 9.5. And I am going to stamp her on there with some Cajun craze. And then I'm going to take, hopefully, see, I told you I was surrounded by chaos. Where's my water brush gone? Let me just grab another one, see if this one has got some water in it. Just going to grab some water. The job after sorting out my catalogues, once the catalogues are sorted, I think the next job is sorting out my craft room. Right, I'll find the other one now. I'm just going to take this water brush and I'm just going to drag out this colour to give us a sort of sepia effect. I'm just adding in a bit of water just to drag that colour out a bit so that we get sort of the idea of a sepia type photo. Could also have used our blender pen. Actually, just pick up a little bit of soft suede as well. Just add in some brown tones as well. Just sort of washing that out. So I've not added, apart from adding in that little bit of soft suede, I've not actually added any more colour in that other than just pulling out that colour. So let's do a bit more tearing just because we can, because we want this to be like an old photo. And again, we'll come in and we'll just go around the edge with some soft suede. And that shading in a little bit further. Okay, I think we're going to have soft suede matte pen. Actually, I've got a bit of card here that's looking a little bit dog-eared, and I'm actually going to emboss it, so I don't think that that's going to make much difference, is it? It's just going to add to the overall effect. So let's make this 10 by 14.4. And before I run this through the embossing folder, I'm going to take the Beauty Abounds. I'm going to take some like these bokeh spots, and we'll add in a few sort of age splatters on there. Might even come in with the poppy I think a slightly smaller poppy splatter. And we'll just come in around the edge, doing a bit of first and second generation stamping. So that's already looking quite nice and aged, as if it's been through the mill. It's been knocking around in an album for the last 80 years. Right, let's run that one through the machine. Okay, so what have I done? There it is. I was going to say it can't be very far away because we've used it. I'm just throwing embossing plates at my toes, which is never a good idea. That's fun, isn't it? That's very old and decrepit. So this is the sort of inside. So as you put it in with the stamping upon the top, that gives you so that you get the indentations on the top. If you want it the other way, you need to turn it over. And that's okay. That's all good. Shall we go again with a very vanilla card base, as we're staying in the vintage tone. Let me just score this at 10.5. Lovely. So we just want, I love that collect beautiful moments sentiment on there. That seemed very appropriate. Down there, I think I'm just debating what colour we should go for. Probably soft suede, I think. Let's ink that up with soft suede. I might also just add some water in there, pick up some ink and just do a few splatters over the top. And I think before it's gone completely, this is, I don't know whether you can still even get the burlap ribbon. I'm going to snip down these ends. Oh, we have a buzzy bee come to join us. We'll do the same the other end. So I think the embossing folder is going to be a good addition to scrapbook pages as well. And just a bit of spraying on these ends, and we'll have that underneath. Okay, might need just to chop it down slightly. Lid on that because we've added water to it, so it is even more likely to spread where we don't need it to. One, two. Okay, let's stick this down. So a nice lot of grunginess and aged looks and vintagey this morning. And we'll just put that up on some dimensionals. But both showcasing that little embossing folder that is, you know, it's a relatively small thing, but rather fabulous. A little bit more glue underneath there, obviously because it is wrinkly. Don't think I quite put enough glue to that edge. That's better. Right. So, splatters, embossing, tearing, curling, all sorts of things going on as we played with that lovely old world embossing folder and teamed it up with a variety of stamp sets that you can currently get. So we use the Beautiful Moments, we use the Forever Blossoms, we use that Sentiment from the Path of Petals, added in a splatter from Painted Poppies and a blob from Beauty Abounds. So just all these lovely things where we're combining the new with the things we've already got to create beautiful projects. So I hope you've enjoyed those, and we'll be back for more fun tomorrow.